Hey there, welcome to Astro Weather for I was going to say September. I'm a few months off here for November of 2025. We got a lot of stuff to go through, so it's a long script tonight. I want to warn you, it's gonna take a while. So if you want to go ahead and make sure that you've got a cup of tea, glass of water, something stronger if that's something you feel you're going to need. We do have a lot that we're going to be going through. I will be going as quickly as I can without making it too quick to be able to understand. So to give you an idea of what's going to be, well, actually, before I start talking, let me go ahead and pull up the screen here. Okay. Why are we not coming up? Now, come. You are supposed to be arriving here. Let's try this again. Okay, now it's occupying the screen, so we should be all right. And we go to present. Ready? Now I'm going to move this back a bit. Just want to make sure here, guys. Can you see? Somebody let me know. Can you see my mouse moving around? Somebody text me in chat if you can see my mouse moving around on the screen. Excellent. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it. Okay. I'm going to go back now to sharing or presenting, I should say. There we go. Now we should be full screen. Okay. Now, because I'm sort of going blind here tonight, guys. I don't have a helper. So I'm going to see how I can do this. I'm going to have to just go as I'm at here because I am presenting. All right, so to give you an idea what's going on for this coming month, we've got a tremendous amount just in the first 9 days of November that are coming up. In these first 9 days, we're going to have a tremendous amount of Mars activity. We're going to have a full moon. We're going to have Venus and Uranus both changing signs. Uranus happens to be in retrograde. That's why it's changing. Venus is moving forward. That's not that unusual. Venus changes its sign roughly every 29, 28, 27 days. So it's going to be changing more than once a month very frequently. But Mercury will also be stationing and going retrograde. So that's all happening between the 1st and the 9th of the month. So there's a lot going on. Let's go ahead and get started. First up, on November 3rd, this is the biggie that I've been pointing out. We've got a lot of Mars activity. And when Mars is in play, we're looking at anything that has to do with motivation and drive. We're having to look at physical activity. We're looking at the human libido. We're looking at forward-moving action. That's what Mars is all about. It's also about aggression, anger, and it's the way that we express outward gaining momentum activity. All right. Neptune, of course, is more the planet of creativity, of illusion, of escapism to a certain degree. We're looking also at healing when we look at Neptune, and we're looking at the concept of deception, which also comes into play with Neptune's energy. Now, we put those two together, and what do we have? Well, back on October 28th, you may remember when I talked about Mars making a beautiful connection to Jupiter, the Mars trine Jupiter being a really great opportunity, like the go-to moment for getting things done, the kiss of good luck kind of thing. Well, with Mars making a trine to Neptune, this really takes it to the next level when it comes to those of us who have creative kinds of jobs. Great motivation to express yourself creatively, especially when you're dealing with anything to do with like rhythm and movement, music, sculpture, dance, even sports is a really good way to look at that. So I'm not at all surprised that if there may be some of you that get some some really good time on the tennis court, or perhaps some good ice skating going on. All of that would make a lot of sense with Mars trine Neptune. It's any kind of a physical creative outlet. That could also be physical problem solving if you're, do like, how can I put what I'm trying to say? Let's say you work in a factory, and you are like the shift person who goes from position to position solving problems. That's creatively solving problems on your feet while you're moving. That would also fit the Mars trine Neptune kind of a paradigm. Next week, you might feel very pushed to actively participate in some kind of spiritual or religious activity during this time, because Neptune does rule our spirituality, and Mars talks about active participation. There could be healing activities that come into play at this point in time that involve especially healing the collective, because Neptune talks about the group, all of us as a whole. And if we're going to be doing healing activities, it would be something that would likely be healing a lot of people at one time. Things that, even with Mars involved, this kind of a connection doesn't generally move to aggression. This would more be the idea of something that needs great spiritual courage. This would be, standing up for the underdog. This would be taking part in some kind of perhaps a protest for the common good. That would make sense with Mars trine Neptune. And generally, these are not ending up to be aggressive, violent kinds of things. These are peaceful protests to support the dignity or the overall healing of the collective. When we're talking about this kind of thing, we're also talking about protecting animals, the environment, underserved or underrepresented populations. That's what would be represented here. Now, this is also a really wonderful time for romance, because Mars does rule the libido, our sexual drive. And you put that into play with Neptune when we can come off with our greatest glamour and our best illusion of beauty. Our sensuality and our magnetism is going to be right up there at the best it's ever going to be. So this also may be a time, if you are seeking a partner, that you may come across a partner who's far more spiritually attuned to you, or someone in whom you see some kind of spiritual attunement. So these are the kinds of things you can look for. And we also want to be sure that we make sure that these are gentler connections. These are less, yes, libido is involved, but this is not I don't want to say wham, bam, thank you, man. That sounds so dreadful, but it's not that kind of energy. It's more a romantic, nurturing kind of energy that would be bringing people together. So look at your dates there for November 1st through the 4th, and see if there might be an opportunity for you and your special someone to maybe find a getaway that could allow you to truly delve into each other's deeper spiritual natures. Also during this time, as I mentioned up here, this could be a great time with that religious and spiritual activity as a group, perhaps. This could be a group past life regression, or this is actually tremendously good for a group therapy session. That would make a lot of sense too. So lots going on for November 3rd in terms of healing and moving forward in psychological aspects, in romantic aspects, in creative aspects, in spiritual aspects. The next date that we're going to look at, also on the 4th, this runs November 4th through the 15th. This is when Mars, after it finishes with its connection with Neptune, will move into the sign of Sagittarius. Now, when Mars has been just recently going through its previous sign, we were more interested in the intense, tight focus. Now we're more looking at the big picture. We are more motivated by ideals when Mars enters this sign. Ruled by Jupiter, this is where we're looking at growth and expansion as something that really interests us. We'll have a greater love of adventure during this time period. We're going to want to love conquests in all of its forms. As I've put up here, it's the idea of love one-on-one, love as a group, love for animals, love for our friendships. These are all of the things that will be embraced by this particular Mars sign. We're quickly excited by new things because Sagittarius loves to explore the new and the unexpected. Sagittarius is a mutable sign. It likes change. It's not something that stays fixed and focused. It moves, it changes, it shifts, and it remains excited by everything and wants to learn everything. It's a lot more playful and fun-loving too. So this could be a much lighter time for you through this period. What we do need to be aware of, if this is a time period when you need to be focused, when you need to have need to get things done, try to give yourself a little extra time, because Mars, number one, doesn't like being focused, and Sagittarius certainly doesn't like being focused. So this is not a great time for routine. Try to build into your time period downtime, recharging your batteries, working like in a sprint at something instead of a marathon, and then breaking for a little while, rejuvenating, get your focus back, come back to it again, if that makes sense. It's a great time to start projects, very enthusiastically, as a matter of fact, but it's not real prone energy for finishing them. So if you are the person that is expected to get the ball rolling, make sure you have in place somebody to keep it rolling once you've got it started, okay? Work with your coworkers to be able to make this the most productive time for you both. We can feel very restless when we're confined during this period of time. So if you can find ways to keep moving, find ways to be able to constantly get the area where you do your work, the focus in which you have to do your work on a moving target kind of a basis, you'll be better off to hit that target with that kind of a thought in mind. During the period of November 4th to 15th, ease up on trying to make a lot of plans. It doesn't generally work out that way. You're more easily distracted during this period of time, and you're not looking ahead in that sense. You're looking ahead to see where you can expand to and grow to, but not to what kind of work you can lay ahead. So this is a wonderful time if you're going to be doing planning to make it the big picture planning, the broad horizon, broad brush strokes kind of planning, not going down to the nitty gritty of everything. That will come after the 15th when Mars moves out of Sagittarius and into Capricorn. The next date we look at, actually, it's still on the 4th. There's a lot going on the 4th. This is when Mars will quickly, after it has moved into Sagittarius, be right opposed Uranus over there in Gemini. Remember, Uranus is retrograde right now. It will be shifting back into its previous sign, into Taurus. But right for this point in time, expect some sudden bursts of creative expression. That's what usually happens when you're looking at a Mars-Uranus connection, because Mars wants to move forward, right? Uranus is all about sudden change, sudden bursts of unexpected activity. So expect creative expression. Think of Sagittarius being involved here to be part of what's going on. With Uranus and Gemini, it can be sudden communication as well. Sudden ideas, sudden thoughts, sudden writing. If you get an idea for problem solving, this would be a great time to make sure you have a journal or pad of paper near you so that you can jot those ideas down as they come up. It's a powerfully, explosively, sudden impulse action time period during this particular transit, because you can't plan it. You can't expect it. You have no idea when it will come up. Just know that it will be sudden and it will be powerful when it does. You may experience some unusually intense desire to break free from any restriction or things that have been holding you back more than you had been previously, especially if this is something that's been going on for a while. The thing to keep in mind during this particular aspect, this can be a time when you want to break free from obligations, or a time when you want to break free from responsibilities that you have been having. The key to finding out what the clue, whether or not this is something that really should happen or whether you need to hold yourself in, is to ask yourself, do these restrictions, these obligations, these responsibilities that you hold, are they reflecting your authentic self? Because one of the most important parts of any Uranus transit or a transit involving Uranus is demanding of you to live your authentic life, not the one somebody else planned for you, not even the one you planned for you 20 years ago and you've now changed and no longer fit. So ask yourself, are these responsibilities, obligations, or restrictions truly reflecting who you want to be and who you are? That's a good way to guess whether or not this is a hint that you should heed to break from these restrictions. Are you rebelling simply for the sake of rebelling, which is a very common part of this aspect? Or is Uranus trying to help you move to your next level? Something to ask yourself. There can be outbursts aimed towards those of who are around us who have perhaps thwarted your own self-expression in the past. People who have a good example. Let's put a real concrete example on the board. You're at work and you're dealing with a coworker you've worked side by side with for 5-6 years. And every time you turn around, this person is trying to undercut you, trying to second guess you. Up until now, you've probably been able to deal with it, been able to handle it. But this particular time, it just won't sit. It just won't stay. Well, this could have been building for a long period of time, and this particular transit will make resisting that energy almost impossible to ignore. So if Uranus is pushing you, it's probably telling you don't ignore it any longer. Why haven't you stepped up? Why haven't you either spoken directly to this person or spoken directly to both of your supervisors? Just a thought to throw out there. If this is an individual or a situation that has been stopping you in your tracks for a long time now, Uranus is demanding you look at it. You may receive, considering Mars is going on here for everybody, this isn't just you, you may also receive unprecedented or unexpected attacks on your character, on your agenda during this period, because they have their own energies working on them. Maybe unwittingly, you have been restricting or keeping someone from moving forward. So it's something to think about. It's not always on your side of the block. It may be on the other side of the street as well. This is a time to force yourself to think before you lash out, which is very hard to do with this particular energy. Mars wants to act now. Uranus wants to act yesterday, basically. So it's going to be an effort, but it's an effort that would be well worth your time to do, because otherwise you're going to be batting an awful lot of cleanup ball in the next few days after this particular transit is over. You'll have an unusual desire to be impulsive, an unusual disregard for tradition, for what is considered the way things are done. Uranus doesn't like that kind of energy. It wants to create a new tradition. Work within the system, but create a new tradition nonetheless. So it's just something to think about. Why? That's always the thing to ask yourself throughout this entire period of November 1st through November 4th. I know it says it's exact on the 4th. It's because of the retrograde motion. It won't last long while it's exact. You're going to want to ask yourself, is there a really good reason for this, or am I just rebelling for the sake of rebelling? Only you can answer that. And then the next day is when we have a full moon that we're dealing with. And this is a full moon at 13 degrees of Taurus, 15 minutes. Now, a full moon always happens when the moon and the sun are directly across the heavens from each other. So in this particular case, if the moon is at 13 degrees of Taurus, the sun is at 13 degrees of Scorpio. Makes sense? The two signs are opposed. So they always, full moons always pit the two signs against each other. It also invites us, rather than pitting those two signs, those energies, those archetypes that we embody against each other within ourselves, it's also asking us to find the fulcrum point of balance between the two. Because we don't want to have them at war. We don't want to have the Taurus parts of our lives and the Scorpio parts of our lives at war with each other. Now, some of you who may not know much about astrology may be saying, well, how do I know if I have Taurus and I have Scorpio in myself? Everyone does. Everyone always has all 12 of the signs of the zodiac in their own composition, their own horoscope. It just depends on where it is, which parts of your chart have Taurus and Scorpio resting in them. Do you have planets resting in those signs? That makes a difference. Do the planets you have by any chance, where is Venus, which rules Taurus? Where is Mars and Pluto, which rule Scorpio? All of these things come into play, which is why I always love telling people that it's really good for you to take my astrology classes so you can learn, or if not just mine, there's plenty of folks out there that are teaching astrology. Feel free to take a look and see what will work for you. But for this intents and purposes right now, just think about with this particular lunation. A lunation is another name for a full moon, a new moon, quarter moon, that kind of thing. What we're looking at is the contrast between earthy, practical, peace-loving Taurus and more crisis-oriented, emotional, transformative Scorpio. That's really what it's at. The moon in Taurus wants us to find emotional fulfillment through the simple things in life, the tangible things in life. Think cooking a good meal, relaxing at home under a really lovely fuzzy blanket with a fire crackling in the fireplace, or perhaps if you don't have a fireplace, a graphic of one crackling on your television on YouTube. The Scorpio sun, on the other hand, well, sorry about that. We just had our smoke alarm go off. Okay, I think I'm going to have to break here. Sorry, guys. If I can, I'll come back. Oh, did it stop? Yes, it looks like it stopped. Okay, hopefully that won't start again. Sorry about that. That was interesting. Let's see if we can't go on. I'm on the air. Excuse me. Okay. Where the heck was I? Mars is now, okay, on the 6th. Forgive me. I apologize for that. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to go back. So here we have the balance that you're going to be trying to find your way between is preservation on the side of Taurus and transformation on the side of Scorpio. Collecting, which is what Taurus does, it collects things. It amasses material things. Scorpio likes to share. It likes to give its resources out and repurpose things. Being emotionally stoic or being emotionally expressive. Being emotionally straightforward to gain emotional stability, so to speak, or being manipulative, which is not always negative. It can be positive to gain emotional stipulations or emotional stability. Looking for simplicity, seeking simplicity or seeking complexity. These are the two sides of the seesaw when it comes to Taurus and Scorpio. And valuing tangibility, the concrete and the real, or valuing mystery, looking for what's sort of uncovered that or what we can uncover in the information that we can look for. And being peace-loving or being crisis-oriented. Those are the fulcrum points that you want to seek, you want to look for. So take a look in your own chart, if you can, if you know it, to see where 13 degrees of Taurus, 15 minutes, and 13 degrees of Scorpio, 15 minutes rest. That will give you an idea which axis, which pair of houses in your chart are the ones that are being activated by this full moon. On November 6th, Venus will enter the sign of Scorpio. This is really the thing that we like to know about this one is knowing that the way Scorpio teaches, nothing lasts forever. As we just said, Scorpio likes transformation. It likes to repurpose. It likes to rejuvenate. So knowing that love, Venus, forever changes in Scorpio, that's something that is a great lesson to be able to take on board during this time. It will be in the sign of Scorpio from November 6th through November 30th. And during this period of time, it's a really important thing to let go of relationships or partnerships that aren't really fully honest, that aren't really the full real you. Remember how we were talking about the authenticity issue with Mars and Uranus? That same thing kind of holds true here with Venus in Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. It wants authenticity. It wants real. And with Venus, it's talking about how you partner, how you achieve rapport with other people. It's really important to dedicate yourself to projects or to people that allow you to be yourself, allowing you to reflect your true nature from your core out, rather than having to put on a false front or having to wear a mask, shall we say. You'll find when Venus is in Scorpio, you have very little time for what I call cocktail party chatter. You really, if you're going to interact with people, you want it to be one-on-one, or you want it to be really deep friends that you are yourself with. So this is not a time for shallow connections, shall we say. This can be especially hard if you're in a business that requires you to meet different people and do that cocktail party thing. What you may want to do is sort of have yourself a wingman, somebody that can be of assistance to you when you need to have a break and take a step away, get yourself back under control, and then come back in to be able to do the work that you need to do. It's absolutely important that you pay attention to where betrayal and trust issues come up in your life. Don't forget, Scorpio is ruled by both Mars, full speed ahead, and Pluto, which is all about how do we play with power? What are all of the manifestations of power? So betrayal, trust issues are always side effects of that exploration. When we are looking at Venus entering Mars, or entering Scorpio, what we're dealing with is making sure that we have self-respect and devotion as our main propellant in a relationship, rather than betrayal, trust, manipulation. So that's what you need to look for. Are you getting echoes in a conversation with your lover or your spouse or a dear friend that are not feeling comfortable for you? You need to pay attention to that and perhaps find out why that might be so. On the 6th, we're looking at Mars in Sagittarius making a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. This will happen exactly at about 9:39 in the morning on the 6th, but it will be in orb, in other words, in striking distance. You'll feel it starting around the 5th and finishing up on the 7th. As we've talked about ever since we started tonight, Mars is all about motivation and drive, pushing forward. Pluto is similar. Pluto is all about big moving forward, transformational moving forward, healing moving forward. And as I mentioned, betrayal and trust issues and all explorations of power. So we're looking at powerful energy for transformation and growth coming into play here. This is a sextile. Sextiles talk about opportunities. This is not a difficult aspect in terms of challenging or hard to manage, but it is definitely one that can't be ignored. Anything involving Pluto will not let you ignore it. So I would say if this is an opportunity for you between the 5th and the 7th to experience some kind of transformation or some growth spurt, even if you haven't wanted to, this is the time to take advantage of it, because the universe is on your side here. The universe is giving you energy and momentum to help make it happen. This is going to be a period for great determination, motivation, and drive. Think superhuman power. When we get Mars connected with Pluto, it's superhuman. It's unbelievably strong energy. So this is a great time to push through a hard project, to push through something that may have been something you felt was beyond your capability. You can tackle it during this time period. Psychologically, we are pushed to plumb the depths of the subconscious during this time period and to yank out any hidden fears and insecurities right by the root. Just yank them out. This is superb for psychological work, great for shadow work, fabulous for doing group and individual therapy. You have great strength to overcome obstacles that have stopped you in your path in the past. And it's a great time to start new projects, because Pluto is all about transformation, starting something fresh and new, and Mars is all about the drive moving forward. So if you've got any of these things going on for you, take advantage of them as best you can, November 5th through the 7th. On November 7th, towards the end of the day, we've got Uranus in retrograde, re-entering Taurus. It's pulling itself out of Gemini and making a final dip into Taurus for its last time. It's a shorter period. It will be in Taurus until April of 2032. We will be, that's not right. That can't be correct. Forgive me. Ignore that, because that's a mistaken notation. I must have pulled that from somewhere else. I apologize. Significant changes and unexpected shifts take place when Uranus, unexpected and sudden changes, are put into Taurus, because this is the physical. This is the realm of the tangible. So you can expect changes and shifts in money, changes and shifts in securities and safety and security things. It's a great time, by the way, to put into place a home security system. Defining what stability means to you is important as well, because this is when we are going retrograde, it's very much looking within. So what does stability mean for you personally? What does it mean to be safe personally? Perhaps this is a great time to figure out, what's the safe dollar figure in my bank account? What is it that I need to have in place to feel secure, and work towards that? What is it that I need around me in terms of my physical resources to feel safe? It's a great time to think of that. Are you able to separate yourself from the external chaos that you feel and go into the natural cycles and shifts of the earth, the natural world, and start experiencing perhaps those in a more realistic way, in a more, what's the word I'm looking for? A more organic way. Start paying attention. I mean, most gardens are dying out now. Getting rid of all of the detritus in your garden, getting it ready for the spring. This is a time of perhaps thinking about, what are you going to do in the darker periods of the year? Instead of maybe working so hard to make sure you're up late at night, start working more within the time frame of when light actually comes into us from the sun. Just do what you can to examine entering yourself into the more natural rhythms of the earth. And then the beautiful one, the one that everybody gets all nervous about. November 9th is when Mercury goes retrograde, and it will be the final retrograde of the year. It's a period of reflection, recalibration, reclaiming our truth, because Mercury is all about looking at how we think. Considering it will start out, at least it'll start out in Sagittarius. We're going to be looking at, how does our big ideals, how do our big and bold ideas come into play? Because bold ideas during this period can equal really big missteps. But they can just as easily, those missteps can end up being very healing in the long run if we allow ourselves to look and see what good can come of it. It's very likely that we're going to be dealing with changes or shifts in the style of our manner of talking, our manner of writing, the way we communicate. You may find yourself doing a lot more typing than you usually do. You may find yourself talking less on the phone than you're used to. Expect there to be some shifts. That's all I'm saying. The language that we choose to use will probably be more broad-based, more philosophical in nature, more big picture oriented in the way the words that we actually choose to communicate with. You need to be wary of overstepping, of overcommitting yourself, of exaggerating, Don't forget, we're looking at Mercury, so this is communication. This is where we could stretch the truth a little bit and end up putting ourselves into some trouble. So think of the 4 agreements. Be impeccable in your speech. Be willing to examine the tapes you play for yourself. And I know I'm dating myself with that one, but what I basically mean is be careful of the way you talk about and to yourself. This is really a time when you want to be sure that you are only being positive with yourself, compassionate with yourself, and giving yourself the greatest possible truth to hear as the tapes you play for yourself. Okay? So Mercury will be in retrograde from the 9th to the 29th. It's in shadow now. It'll be out of shadow about 3 weeks after that. So probably towards the beginning of January. Now we actually get a break between the 9th and the 20th. There's a lot going on, don't get me wrong, but I chose to come to this one next. Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus will be sextile Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. Why did I pick this one? Those of you who have been watching me do astro weather in the past know what I mean when I say anaretic degree, or oh my goodness, I can't think of the other term for it. At any rate, anaretic degree. 29 degrees of any sign is an extremely volatile degree because it's sort of taking the oomph of the entire sign and shoving it into that 1 degree just before it shifts over to the next. So if we look at Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, we're looking at Uranus, sudden unexpected change, at its most volatile, dealing with Taurian things: money, security, safety, resources. Making a sextile to Neptune, creativity, illusion, healing, spirituality, at the 29th degree of Pisces. Also creativity, healing, psychology as well, illusion, even if we're looking slightly on the negative side, addiction, okay? But this is a sextile, so we're looking at an opportunity here. This is not a square, this is not an opposition, it's not even a conjunction, it's a sextile. So opportunities can come up which can signal a spiritual awakening for you during this particular time period. It can be a greater concern about humanity and the collective, which is what Neptune is all about. Uranus talks about being there for the underdog. So this could truly be a tremendous day for those underserved populations that were first given their kiss earlier this month when I was looking. Help me remember which one of those aspects it was. It was the Mars trine Neptune back on the 3rd. This could be a culmination of what got started on that previous time. It's a time of heightened dream activity, which can lead to unexpected information coming through. So for those of you who are a little bit psychic anyway, you probably may be getting some information coming through in dream time. Take advantage of it if you can. Keep a dream journal by your bed. Jot these things down. Those of you, I wish I could say I'm one of you, those of you who are psychic, don't be surprised if you get a lot of stuff coming through and do a lot of channeling during this period as well. Don't let it throw you. Don't be, concerned by it. It's a really open period of time for you. Any creative blocks you've been experiencing could be blasted apart by this particular transit. It's that idea of sudden change. And if your creativity's been blocked, that can shift just as suddenly as the block came into play. Now, when we're looking at a transit of Uranus and Neptune, you're talking about longer term. So I would say probably in effect from about the 13th to maybe the 24th, 25th of November. Also on the 20th, we have at 1:46 a.m. a new moon at 28 degrees of Scorpio. I want to say this is probably the biggest, or no, maybe not the biggest. This may be the most long-term effect transit you're going to see during this month, at least in my opinion. The reason I'm saying that, this is an incredibly power-packed new moon. And before we go into all of these things, let me show you why. The first thing we have here, I'm showing you, this is a chart, obviously, of the 12 signs. The the new moon happens at 28 degrees, 11 minutes of Scorpio. Now, look what else is going on here at the same time. Whoops, back up. Sorry about that. We have the sun, the moon, and Mercury all conjunct each other in exactly the same degree of Scorpio. Now, if we're thinking of Scorpio as being intense, then Mercury is intense at this. A lunation, a new moon, a full moon, tends to show an effect for at least 2 weeks, sometimes longer. If that's the case, and this is a snapshot of that 2-week period, intense communication is likely to be a hallmark of these 2 weeks, this 2-week period between November 20th and 14 days afterwards. So we've got that going on. Let's throw into the fact that we have a beautiful grand trine, a grand water trine in place. A trine simply means an aspect that's 120 degrees apart from other planets. So the sun, moon, Mercury is trined Uranus over here at 29 degrees of Pisces and trined Jupiter over here at 25 degrees of Cancer. It's not exactly the same degree, but they're close enough that they're considered in connection in a grand trine. It's a grand water trine. So what does that mean? Emotions, intuition, healing, all of these things are going to come into play. And when we get a lovely flow like this, it looks to me like there's going to be a tremendous amount of healing potential taking place for the collective. Remember, Neptune talks about the universe, the group, the collective as a whole, with great growth potential. All of this happening at once. With Mercury in play, I get the feeling that there could be some wonderful writing or some wonderful teaching that comes into play through communication as well. In addition to that trine, we've got 2 sextiles in play with Pluto going on over here. It's an out of sign, what I call an out of, well, I don't just call it, other astrologers do too, an out of sign aspect. So that's the only reason why I'm not calling this a kite formation. But it's still enough of a connection that this is quite positive, again with healing, again with transformation in play. Overall, turn all of that astrologies off, turn it into English. This new moon promises to be tremendously healing and transformational for the entire planet if they're willing to let down their guard and allow the energy in. Now, we do have, I don't want to call it a negative, let's call it a challenge. Across from that sun, moon, Mercury, we have Uranus in place. Uranus is making a direct opposition within 30 minutes of arc, or 45 minutes of arc, to what's going on here. What does that mean? Whenever we see Uranus in an opposition to the sun and moon, we're talking about a demand that will be pushed on you, a choice you will have to make about whether you're going to live your authentic life or the life someone else chose for you. Whether you're going to choose to have a truly authentic emotional response or bury your emotions and not feel them, refuse to accept them, refuse to allow them to come to the surface. When we're looking at Mercury making an opposition to Uranus, those are great, brilliant bursts of thought. But don't forget that it can also be great, brilliant bursts of intuition that you need to act on an emotional level. So that's a lot packed in. Those are a lot of planets really making this an incredibly powerful new moon. Now, like with every other new moon that we're looking at, it's a time where you want to set intentions. And you set intentions based on the sign that it rests on. Scorpio is the sign in place here, even though it's 28 degrees and very much towards the end of the sign, it's still in Scorpio. So set your intentions to reflect Scorpio, to really make it work for that kind of energy. So think of it as self-mastery. This is a time to work on those addictions. This is a time to work on getting rid of the psychological baggage that you may have been carrying through for many, many years now that no longer serves you. It's a time to examine your resources, consolidate, recycle, resource. And what I mean by that, you can consolidate to eliminate waste. You can recycle to get rid of the material and spiritual, psychological junk you've been carrying around. You can resource or repurpose. This can be a chance of something that no longer serves you, could be helpful to somebody else. Donate something to the local Goodwill. Donate something to the local women's shelters. Donate something that you're no longer using to a food bank, or even go out and get new food and donate. Think of what so many people are going through right now due to the tremendously stressful and uncertain economic times we're in. If you have it available, share the wealth. That's what Scorpio is about. You should also be thinking about allowing vulnerability into your relationships. And this is not just your intimate partnership, but also family, also one-on-one friendships, deep internal good relationships that you have. Taking time to understand what drives our partners, what drives our friends, what motivates our coworkers goes a long way to helping us understand them and ourselves. It can go a long way to forgiveness. Maybe something that should have been forgiven a long, long time ago can finally be let go if you allow yourself to try to see from the other person's point of view. Walk a mile in their moccasins, as they used to say. It can also be a time in terms of, the vulnerability of relationships to maybe decide, instead of playing the field, is it time to focus on one relationship? Is it time to get real with one partner? Just tossing that one out there. It's time to take back your power. See, where have you given away your strength and your power to someone else? Time to take it back. Absolutely time to take it back. It's a time to align with your deepest passions. And for that, you got to figure out what they are. So spend time with yourself, journal, do some thinking about what it is that drives you most, what it is that you want to accomplish in this world. How do you want to be remembered in this world? These are the things that help you determine what's your deepest passion. It's a time to let go of old, harmful secrets that no longer will do you any good. These secrets generally get cloaked and wrapped to a point where you are dragging dead weight. It's like Marley's ghost, hauling a ball and chain around with you wherever you go. Let go of the secrets and instead come into the light. Connecting more deeply with your partner. This can be, sharing with them those secrets, or sharing with them what your deepest passions are and letting them do the same with you. Allowing yourself to be a non-judgmental source for your partner's secrets, or a really supporting energy for your partner's greatest dreams and goals. And then finally, this is a great time to do, as I said, shadow work, specifically to uncover personal truths that you may not have even known were there. Do some Googling on the net to see what you can turn up from good shadow work prompts for journal work. All of these are great, great intentions. Best time to set these intentions are within 8 hours after the new moon hits. Well, here on this side of the coast, it's going to hit at 1:46 a.m. So unless you're a night owl, maybe you try to get up really early and do it then. The sun will enter the sign of Sagittarius on November 21st. Now, this enters it for everybody, not just for the Sagittarians. It's become Sagittarius season for all of us at that point in time. And all of us, to a certain degree, will find ourselves having a desire to want to reach out more, expand our world, expand our horizons. It's a great time to do that. It's a real need to connect to something bigger than ourselves that can be in place at this time. That can sometimes happen through embracing either a new spiritual practice or maybe visiting a different house of worship. Could be something new in that realm. We could feel a need to increase our understanding of the world around us. Getting to know a community through its culture can be one of the ways to achieve that. A greater focus on the big picture instead of going into the nitty-gritty, looking at what does this action mean to everybody? How will this impact everybody or impact more people? A lot of that is going to be more in the forefront during the period of November 21st through December 21st when the sun is in Sagittarius. And finally, for me, this is the greatest part of this particular sign. There's a real desire to nurture hope, a real desire to offer greater vision and to have a sense of faith, not to need it, but to have it, to share a sense of faith that if we work together, this can all work out. It's truly a feeling during this season that I appreciate so very much. And then the final one, Venus will enter the sign of Sagittarius during this particular month. Instead of that really intense focus that Venus had in Scorpio, in Sagittarius, instead of love one at a time, it's love the one you're with. Very much a Stephen Stills moment. I don't mean that from a polygamous standpoint, more from the idea of truly enjoy the people with whom you're sharing space. Truly have a love of your fellow man in this particular time. We may find that relating to other people is a lot more straightforward, could be a lot more blunt too, to be perfectly honest, when we're dealing with Sagittarius. Truth, you'll find, though, is very much at a premium. That's why the bluntness sometimes comes in. Try to temper that if you can with kindness. But still, if you have a choice, if you don't have a choice, truth is always better than not. There can be a real meaning of the minds when Venus is in Sagittarius, because the way we relate is going to very much feed each other's truths and each other's hearts. We'll be especially interested in traveling, in learning more, in loving the animals in our lives, maybe even getting a pet during this period of time. We may love sports a lot more during this time, physical activity. Don't forget, Sagittarius is the sort of the ruler of the Olympic Games. It's that idea of it doesn't happen during this period of time, but the sports of determining being the best you can be. That's what Sagittarius is all about. So loving nature also comes into play with this. So doing a lot of nature walks out in the good, beautiful out of doors is going to be a good thing to do during this time. And our experience, missed the word there, our finances can have some ups and downs during this period of time, but generally it tends to be positive because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is that chef's kiss of good luck, basically. So I would say it's a pretty good time to plan your finances out for the year ahead. And that pretty much covers the day-to-day stuff that I ran across. These are our favorable dates for communication and our challenging ones. The reason I call this is that this is where Mercury comes into play. And that's why I put it for communication. We're looking at good conjunctions or sextiles or trines on November 12th, 17th, 19th, 22nd, and 24th. And there are either squares or oppositions that are in play with November 9th, 18th, and 19th. These two, I know they're the same. It means that there's things that are going on both ways that day. So a lot of it is going to depend on your own personal chart to see whether or not it's going to have an impact in a positive way or a more challenging way. When it comes to finances and career or romance, this is where Venus is in play, and the positive dates are November 26th and 30th, the more challenging, the 7th and the 29th. And that brings us to the end of Astro Weather for this particular month. So we're going to now stop sharing. Let me go ahead. I think I did that. I think I stopped sharing. And I look forward to seeing you again. So sorry about that crazy alarm going off. Here, let me turn on the chat and see what everybody has going on. Does anybody have any questions that you might like me to cover before we close off for the night? You're most welcome, Haley. I'm losing my voice. Can you tell? Yeah, it was just, apparently my husband was cooking. He poked his head in the door. That's what he was trying to tell us. So everything is good here. And yeah, I know, Kathleen, it's pretty funny, but life with Richard, it's always a joy. So we will see you then at the end of next month to do Astro Weather for December. Until that time, be well and namaste, everybody.